Look, Season 3 has problems, but this... yeah, this is fun. Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to my first proper, actual endgamey build for Season 3. Not full level 100 max Paragon, of course. We're only, like, less than a week into the season, but still definitively one that is capable of beating, essentially, every bit of content in the game. Soloed Duriel real quick at level 76, no problem. Farming through tier 54 Nightmare dungeons at like level 78, absolutely tickety-boo. Never in danger of dying, never running out of mana, and essentially one-shotting everything with Meteor or deleting it in half a second with Firewall, and their sweet symphony synergy that, yes, creates a endless automatic AFK self-perpetuating burn impact cycle that is unbelievably delicious. I cannot recommend this enough. The new unique Starfall Coronet has unlocked a world of wonder, and there's like 6 different builds we can do with it, and I cannot wait to share them with you. But this one right here is the one you can get hold of the soonest, that is the least gear dependent, and actually still arguably might be the best of the 6 anyway. I really am impressed with what I've come up with here, not just in its raw damage output, which is above and beyond what I could have hoped for, especially after Ball Lightning has been knocked from the throne. It's just so comfortable. Like, you are immortal walking along with infinite barriers, and everything just kinda passively dies around you without you even needing to think about anything. Because, look, Meteor being made a cooldown that's only like 5 seconds long when your cooldown reduction is taken into account, means that every 5 seconds we get a barrier. And that barrier means, yes, we don't die, but it also means barrier synergies. Like, there has never been a point at which Sorcerer has had more consistent, easy barrierness, and we love barrierness in every sense. Having the ability to fire Meteor out as a cooldown changes everything fundamentally. Not just mechanically in how the ability works, which, yes, it does, but in what it provides by essence of simply being a cooldown and not a normal spender spammy skill. I am so chuffed with it. And there is essentially 2 ways to play Firewall Meteor: Lucky Hit or Crit. Lucky Hit leans the damage on X-Fouls and the raw burn, with the Meteor Impact being hefty bonuses, and then Crit leans the damage on the Meteor Impacts while lessening everything else. I have tested both, and the Lucky Hit approach is by far and away the winner. And honestly, more than anything, it just looks great to see like 15 ranks of Meteor. This could be 20 if I had the unique glyph and a better affix roll. It's so silly. I really am glad that this build, this unique, exists, because it has given me some real, genuine fun in an otherwise so far anticlimactic season. So without further ado then, let's go over how to become the God of Fire and essentially win Season 3. Just jumping in from the future, I wanted to report back on this build that I'm presenting you right now, as I used it all the way to level 100. Yeah, it's freaking awesome. It rocks. I've done the new level 100 version of Malthus with it, and just generally speaking, it so beyond gets the job done, and I just wanted to give it that extra seal of approval, so you know that it doesn't fall off now that I have, well, finished it to level 100, Uber Lilith, tier 90 plus, all of that good stuff. Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's start cooking up some mighty meaty meteors then. Beginning with your basics, just any 2 points anywhere. We don't need any of them to get to your cause. And again, we don't actually need any of the cause, so we'll just grab Devastation and then Elemental Dominance to move on to defensives. If you are struggling to reach your full 70% resistance cap without Potent Warding, then do get Potent Warding instead of Dominance. dominance, but I have it, so I am erring on the side of more damage. Always the more fun side to err on. Defensives then, triple is the way today, with Flame Shield all the way over to Shimmering. The heal can come in nicely. Then Teleport, for all of the reasons Teleport is incredible, including the DR, and also Raiment Grouping Stunning, which is obviously fantastic for then dropping a Meteor on the now grouped group of enemies. Then we'll grab ourselves Maximum Blast Cannon. It's free damage. The build is incredibly tanky, especially with the current level of content difficulty in the game. 1 rank in attunement, just so we can reset the cooldown on our defensives. And then lastly, Frost Nova, both as an extra source of vulnerable and to reliably trigger Hoarfrost on big groups of elites. Over to our Conjuration, where we will grab Precision. We want as much lucky hit as possible, so this is the obvious choice. Get our double defensives, 21% DR all the time from our Flame Wall spam, and Protection, so we get constant barriers for pressing, well, every single one of our buttons, bar Firewall. This here turns the Meteor, now that it is a cooldown thanks to the new unique, into a give me a barrier button. So our greatest defensive tool is now also our greatest defensive tool. It is so delicious. Over to Ice Blades, and then take it down to Summoned. This is really just our source of cold damage for Tal Rashes, but hey, the Summoned at least does tickle down our cooldowns, so that's at least something. Over to the stars of the show then, we have Meteor. Max it out and then take it to Enhanced and Wizards. We want it to immobilize instead of fall faster because we don't have the spare points to get Crippling Flames, so this is our source of immobilization. Technically, because we don't have Devouring Blaze and Aspect of Control is optional, we don't need to immobilize, but a stuck enemy in Meteors and Firewall is a dead enemy, so I found this is the most useful of the two. Grab yourself 3 out of 3 Inner Flames, so both of these do 9% multiplicative more damage. We will always be healthy because we're so tanky, and then 5 out of 5 into your Firewall to then get Enhanced and Mages, so they burn for as long as possible. We really don't need the mana help. This build is silly sustainable. And that also gives us our 2 enchantment slots. A Meteor, so everything can drop Meteors including Meteor, and then Firewall, so everything can make Firewalls including Firewalls, and the interplay between these two is amazing, thanks to the new unique. Over to our ultimates, where we grab Permafrost and then Hoarfrost. We will always be chilling our enemies, thanks to the Seneschal, and then freezing them with Frost Nova, so 18 and 36% multiplicative respectively is a huge increase and very worthwhile. Then grab Fiery Surge just to get 3 out of 3 Endless Spire for that more burn damage, and then lastly our key passive is Combustion for even more burn damage. Remember, we're focusing on lucky hit and the raw dot damage. The impact from Meteor and the X-Files explosions are bonus, so we don't need ferocity, we don't need crit damage, we don't have the spare gear space and affix space to do both, and this is the way that I've found is most effective. And yes, we don't play an ultimate. Honestly, it's just not needed. Obviously, we're not going to use Unstable or Deep Freeze, but Inferno really doesn't do a lot. The damage is just fine. We don't need the mana, we don't need the pull. We can get away with a much better button setup, and that is exactly what I have done. So, with everything in place, let's look at our gear. Gems-wise, you want more damage over time in your weapons, and in your jewelry, you want either armor if your resistances are already good, or if not, you want to fill out your gaps. So I have a triple one of each just to make it so that I do have the full 70, but they will slowly become armor as I get more intelligence and more Paragon points and no longer need the help from the gems, and then health in your armor. So, let's actually talk uniques first, because there is a lot of them here. X-Files, this is beautiful, the cooldown reduction is incredible, the lucky hit is incredible, the other two are just solid, but those two affixes are like the best two this build needs, bar none, and then we all know just how much raw damage this pumps out, especially with the sheer amount of damage over time we're doing. Every separate firewall, every separate meteor can X X-Files explode, and you will see it happen constantly. It is such a big source of damage, as is Talrash's. We get ourselves all 3 stacks: fire, lightning from the teleport, and cold from ice blades. Sadly, the Seneschal cannot help nor give us poison or shadow, which is a huge shame of the season, but again, lucky hit, cooldown reduction, and the non-physical damage. Yeah, this thing is just beautiful. Make sure they are your rings. Then get your Raiment of the Infinite, so we can group and stun enemies in both the firewalls and the meteors dropping. It is really solid, as it always is. And then, yes, we have Starfall Coronet, the new unique. So, of course, this makes Meteor the actual charge. The lucky hit, the ranks, the cooldown, I mean, it's built for this skill and the builds around it, and I'm very, very glad it exists. It really is the little light of joy in this so far season. So now we can just use it whenever we want and just wait for it to come back with the 2 charges. It comes back very, very often, and as you're seeing, because it's a cooldown now, we get a barrier when we press it, which activates everything that barrier activates on top of keeping us alive. It's so good. So, regular aspects then. You want to have on your legs your lucky hit chance with a barrier. We're always going to have a barrier, so this pushes it over the edge. Sadly, I've got a low roll here, but if we do look at my lucky hit that we are rocking, well, we're almost at 100% combined. That easily could be if I had slightly better gear and aspects rolls, but this is kind of really where it's at. You want to aim for combined 100% lucky hit and at least a 30+% cooldown reduction. These are your kind of core stat goals. In any case, let's move on to here with Storm Swell for the more vulnerable damage. We will be gaining vulnerable through our Ice Blades, through our Frost Nova, and through our Seneschal, and this is a nice increase. Then we have Conceited, the other barrier do more damage, and again, we constantly have a barrier, even more so than usual, so these 2 are just phenomenal. Over on the Amulet then, for that 1.5 times slot, we have Shattered Stars. Now this did get changed and improved so that the extra meteors do a % damage of your main meteor, which is a lot, but more than that, it makes them actually burn, which is X-Files, which is increased by all of our burning increased synergy. Yeah, this does a lot, and it is worth 1.5 timesing. So this making more meteors fall around Meteor, this making more meteors fall, enhancing the enchantment and the enhanced, it's why when I just press it once, we get so many meteors coming to Earth, and it is wonderful. It really is so potent. So grab this and whack it on your amulet. Then on your legs, you have a choice. If you are needing to be a bit tankier, if you're feeling squishy, get a defensive set of legs and imprint it with either the new Juggernaut for just constant armor, and it really is worth it, even though it does increase your evade. We have teleport, we're mighty mobile even without evade. This is nice. It's not disobedience, we don't have to wait for it to ramp up, it's just there and we survive. You can instead use disobedience, but do pick one of the 2 and get your armor. If you're doing easy content, your level stuff, low tier nightmares, yada yada, well, then you want to go instead for Tybalt's Will for the extra multiplicative damage whenever we teleport or flame shield. It's just even more pow, but it's not strictly necessary. Choose between the pair depending on your activity. Then we have the final one. So I currently have on Engulfing Flames. 30% multiplicative more damage to enemies below 50% life. This is your boss killer. If you're farming the unique bosses, if you're farming Duriel, if you're wanting to kill Lilith, it will make a huge difference once they dip below 50%. The extra effect is just fine. It does let you just walk through dungeons and drop firewalls and then move on, not wait for things to die, but for the most part you want it for for the first effect for boss killing. If you are fine with bosses, or you're doing activities that don't involve bosses, then instead you want to get your aspect of control, so that immobilize does actually start to matter, on top of your freeze, on top of your stun, and in general, the more endgame version of this will use control instead of engulfing flames, so that's the decision to make. Your turning point is up to you when you swap over to control. So, that's the raw setup. Affix-wise then, offensively, as I said, lucky hit is your most important. Lucky hit with a barrier, any way you can get lucky hit. Then you want cooldown reduction. After that, attack speed to spam out your meteors and your firewalls even faster. Ranks of mastery skills, ranks of firewall, ranks of meteor, and then resource generation to keep your mana nice and high. Close damage, mastery damage, intelligence, just general damages like that follow on from there. Defensively on your one piece, you want more armor, and you want damage reduction from close, from burning, from distant, and a couple combinations of that. So, let's talk, well, Seneschal then. What you want then is thus. Flash of adrenaline. That just global multiplicative increase to your damage is too good to pass up and beats out essentially all the other options. Pair it with Safeguard for some nice extra DR, Tactical so it happens more often, and then Duration so it lasts longer. We just want this up as much as it can be. Now, if you have yourself unlocked Genesis, then you want Genesis to take the place of Safeguard so that this is even more potent. That is the way there. On your other slot, you want Tempest. This fires off constantly and chains to enemies. Every time it chains, every time it's fired, you will gain mana back. This gives you your infinite mana pool, even though we're not really investing in mana anywhere else. It's silly effective and one of the actual really good reasons to have your Seneschal. So get Tempest with resource support. Following that then, you want Frigid, so we have consistent chill damage to activate Hoarfrost and get that big bonus damage, and then finally you want Breaking to add more vulnerable uptime. At rank 10, god that'll be a while, then this will happen constantly, but it's still nice to be there. However, if you do have Evernight, then this needs to be in, and you want to choose it instead of Breaking. We'll still get enough vulnerable from Frost Nova and Ice Blades when it matters, and the +4 ranks are just too good to pass up. That then is kinda that when it comes to it. As you can see, he'll just constantly boom, 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 go. Already frozen it, already made it vulnerable along with the Ice Blades, and he's, you know, almost kinda helpful, really, for the build. We can just do a lot of firewalls before we actually start to think about running out of mana, as you can see, and in practical situations, you're just sort of not going to run out of mana. Talking of practical situations then, how do you actually play this? Well, very quickly. Even though it's a dot build, you really do want to be on the move. Firewall, teleport group, drop a meteor, move on, firewall, drop a meteor. Just don't stop. Enemies will just die behind you. Save your flame shield for an oh no situation, use your ice blades on cooldown, and generally go to town. Use your meteor on cooldown mostly as well, keep the barrier up, and save your Frost Nova for big nasty groups of elites or to keep vulnerable up on bosses. It sort of is self-explanatory, really. All that is left then is the Paragon, so stay with me. Of course, I have the current points that I have, so you might have more, you might have less. Adapt it as best you can, but this is what I am working with and what I would recommend. Eventually, I do want to go up and grab resilience here, so I can start putting armor in my jewelry instead of resist, but it's not a priority. So initially, follow my path, go through this intelligence specifically, and then get the glyph, where we're going to be putting old reliable elementalist, 15% more multiplicative damage, and powering up these nodes, which really do matter. Go up past the damaging one and into the next board, which will be your enchantment master. Now, this is a really strong legendary node for this build, improving both the meteor and firewall chance, but it's just too much of a point investment and not really getting good things on the way, so it's just kinda not worth it, sadly. What is worth it though is heading straight right and getting yourself elemental elemental balance as soon as you can, along with elementalist, and then straight up through the glyph to ruinous. In the glyph, we want to have reinforced. Mine is not level 15 yet, but once it is, it will start enhancing both elemental balance and erudite, which you want to grab too. Make sure you've got the willpower to activate it, and rearrange said willpower as needed to free up points once yours is also level 15. And because we have so much barrierage thanks to new Meteor, yeah, this is nice needed DR. Then we head right and up into our next board, which for a build like this can be nothing other than Burning Instinct. First and foremost, head down and get Cinders, and then make your way to the node here where we will be putting in Adept. Both Firewall and Meteor are Mastery, so both get more damage, both get bigger. There really hasn't been a build that benefits more from this size increase than current, well, this one. Also get Smoldering Embers too. Then we want to head up to the middle in order to grab Kindling, a nice little damage increase, going past the extra damage to elites, going past Keeper of Flames, nice bit of damage reduction, but mainly to get to Burning Instinct for the near 30% multiplicative dot damage. This is really, really good. Then we want to go straight up from Kindling, split off left to get Safeguard and the damage reduction from elites. This is very noticeable, nice to have, lets you push content earlier. And then we go straight up into this board here, arranged so the legendary node is in the bottom left, and this is your Searing Heat. Now, we kind of just want to grab Searing Heat here. We might as well get Pyromancy because it's so close, but this is just a little poke in to get a very effective legendary node for 22% more multiplicative fire damage from your direct Meteor strikes, which is certainly worthwhile, especially at this early stage where we have less points. It's a good bit of efficiency. After that, we kind of don't care about the rest of the board. It's a lot of points to start getting critical strike damage, which isn't really the focus, and then we'll end up at the glyph, so we'll sort of just leave it here, and next we will end up down here and into the next board, which will be your Frigid Fate board, your vulnerable board, and then in here you will end up with either Control or Flame Feeder, or indeed Territorial, depending on your needs, but these are three glyphs that will be coming up with this build. And that's where we are at for now. I hope you like the look of this, because I really cannot convey how much actually fun it is, and you gotta have the fun that you can right now. I really always wanted them to do a Meteor unique, and I'm really happy with what they did with it. Turning it into a cooldown I think is fantastic, and I look forward to seeing further ways we can push it, maybe even to just Meteor, which would be even more ridiculous. But for now, this is where we're at, and it is glorious. Like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.